A meeting of a select board at 6 p.m. on April 14th, 2026. Someone like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'll do that.
Thanks, Eric.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So first we'll open as the local liquor control board to consider the renewal application of It's About Time LLC doing business as Time for a first and third class license. Is there someone from Time here tonight? Okay, in that case, they're not, renewals, the business owner is not required to be present.
Could you speak up just a little? Sorry.
Oh, really? Okay. I will, sorry. I just was saying, for renewals, no one's required to be here in person. So often people do not come for renewals, but are there any points or concerns that the board wants to bring up about this application? I'll take a motion, yes.
Okay, I move that the select board renew the application of It's About Time LLC, doing business as Time for a first class and third class license.
Second. Okay, we'll take a second from Ashley. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Great. We'll now close as the local liquor control board and go to the open as the local cannabis control board to consider the approval of an application from MCT LLC doing business as adaptive manufacturing. Is there someone present here? Yes, okay, come on up. So yes, so for cannabis, just for general public, we do require folks to come in every time, even if you've had an application approved in the past. So if you want to just tell us a little bit about your business and how it's going and any information that's pertinent.
Sure. So I'm Miriam. I'm the owner of the Tea House, and I've partnered with another cultivator, and we are opening a manufacturing lab, which will be small and just represent both of our brands, the Tea House and his already existing brand in cultivation. So business has not started yet because we're not licensed, but we'll be on the state's docket towards the end of the month. We've done our inspection and all the paperwork's in. So this meeting and the meeting with the state are the last two things to do.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board?
I will just disclose that my partner does work at the Tea House. I don't think that will affect my decision though, so I'll still vote.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? If not, I will take a motion. Okay, Mary.
All right. I move that the select board approve the CCB application number S-0000014975 by MCT LLC, doing business as adaptive manufacturing for a manufacturer's Tier 3 license.
Thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
Second that.
Second by Eric. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstain? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
luck. Thank you
Maria.
very much for coming in. Okay. Next is the order of agenda. Are there notes to make?
Yes, per the input we've had from Select Board and communicated to the Tree Board and their membership, it has been agreed mutually that we will pull that item from the agenda tonight. It will come back another time after they've done a little bit more work on their proposed bylaw changes.
Okay, thank you. And just context for the rest of the board. There was input on their bylaws that just sort of required them to do some revisions and questions about if they're aligned with policy practices and just tweaks that are needed. So that's why that's happening. Okay, any other changes or notes on the order of agenda from anybody? All right, excellent. We will now have public comment. So if anyone in the room would like to comment on a topic that is ideally not going to be discussed later in the agenda, but a general item that people want to raise awareness around, you're welcome to come up to the mic and introduce yourself. Not seeing any in the room. Do we have any hands on Zoom?
No.
Okay. In that case, we will close public comment for tonight and we'll move on to select board comments and announcements. Does anyone have a comment tonight that they would like to start us off with or an announcement? Eric.
Thank you. Hi, Dan. I wanted to just raise some awareness about Green Up Day. I'm not going to get into the logistics of it. I think everyone can find that information on the typical channels that the town uses for communication. I think it starts, the dumpsters are out here the 29th, but what I really wanted to talk about tonight was just sort of the bigger picture of Green Up Day, what it means to me, what it might mean to some of you. It's just sort of, it strikes me as an interesting event that we do each year. In the spring, we find the eyesores to be intolerable and we go out collectively with friends, family, neighbors, complete strangers, and we invest our time in changing the world and making it into something that we want to see, we want to live in, and a place that we hope people will visit. So I think it speaks to community pride and stewardship and a sense of shared responsibility. And I think it's important today, perhaps more than ever, because of we're constantly bombarded by information, which causes lots of concern, for which we have a disproportionately small amount of agency. Green Up Day, on the other hand, is all proportionate, right? We see the problem, we go out and clean up, and we see the results. And so it makes sense to us in our minds and in what we observe. greenupvermont.org, it's a pretty excellent timeline of the history of the Green Up Day on their website. One highlight and one final comment. In 1970, after a year of planning, the site tells us that the first Green Up Day is launched by Governor Dean Davis. Interstate highways were closed from 9 until 12. The interstate wasn't finished at that time, didn't finish until 82, but that's still pretty remarkable. Schools bused kids all over Vermont to lend a hand while the governor flew his helicopter around and landed on the interstate in various locations to raise volunteers. That year, 70,000 volunteers cleaned up nearly 100% of the roads. Just for reference sake, in 2024, there were 30,000 volunteers. Maybe our attention has been divided a little bit, not that we're not committed to community volunteering, but there are a lot of things going on. And so the question I sort of been posing to myself is just about this idea of, I just struck by the commitment of a year of planning, closing interstates, busing kids around, and then this thing has been durable and impactful. So the question is, can we do that? Can we replicate that? What is today's equivalent of those types of commitments? So I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. So I'll continue to my left here. Mary, do you have any comments to make?
Thank you.
Okay. Mike? Ashley?
Sure. I'll just mention that I'm looking forward to going to the Vermont Community Development Association, VCDA Housing Conference tomorrow. And I know some folks from Planning and Zoning are going, and I think another member of the Committee on Housing and Homelessness. So I'm excited to learn, always adding tools to the toolbox of how we can provide more housing and, make housing more accessible in Hartford.
Great, thanks. Tim?
I just, we had a meeting yesterday and it just struck me how wonderful this board is, and I appreciate all of you. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Tim. Miranda?
Nope.
And I also don't have any comments tonight. All right, thanks everyone. We'll go on to our appointments. The first is for Thomas Hankins for the Hartford Historic Preservation Commission. Is he present? Yes, wonderful. Would you mind coming up, just introducing yourself and say what village you live in and a couple, a couple of reasons why you're interested in joining this commission.
Yeah, my name is Tom Hankins. I live in Quechee, and bought a project house there about 7 years ago, and we're industriously hard at work trying to get that home renovated. But I'm interested in the historic commission here in town because I guess I'm just a very passionate person when it comes to historic homes, architecture, communities. And I've restored a number of buildings. I kind of got the bug when I bought an 1804 Federal in southern New Hampshire with 7 fireplaces. It was a real high style, Portsmouth style building, and I just got the bug from there. So I've worked in tech and got a couple college degrees and things like that, went to Plymouth in New Hampshire. But more and more I've been involved with rebuilding and refurbishing homes and restoring historic properties. So anyway, I feel like I have a pretty broad base of knowledge. I've got quite the architectural library, just a real student of architecture of all periods, right up to mid-century, I guess is where I am now. The house we bought, by the way, is a 14-sided polygon. It's called a tetradecagon. And so I'm a kind of a historic Federal period guy, and now we're trying to move all these antiques. We're like, wow, we have to adjust to this, get some mid-century stuff or something. But anyway, I love the subject, as maybe you can tell, and I think I could bring something to the commission. And I saw the opening advertised in the listserv and thought, yeah, I should. It's time to get back, and semi-retired. I can put the time in and hopefully be of some help.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, I'm glad you saw the listing, and thanks for responding. Questions? Yes.
No questions. I just wanted to say, like many of the people who come forward to join our commissions and boards,
Sure.
you have an amazing amount of service behind you, and I'm just impressed by all your knowledge and understanding and experience, and I want to thank you for stepping up.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, I will take a motion. Oh, yes.
I move that the board appoint Thomas Hankins to the Hartford Historic Preservation Committee for a 3-year term from April 14th, 2026 and ending in April 13th, 2029.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ashley. Any discussion?
You expect your renovations will be done by then?
I think we're shifting gears from maybe a 5-year to a 10-year project.
Fair enough. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, great. Congratulations and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Excited to have you.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to our next appointment, which is it pronounced Brooke? Brooke Lehman, yes. So this is also a new appointment. So if you wouldn't mind coming up, and you've also applied to the Historic Preservation Commission. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your name, your village, and reasons why you're interested in the commission.
My name is Brooke Lehman. I live in Quechee as well. And I recently moved to the town of Hartford, but I've been in the Upper Valley most of my life. And my family is very extended and has been here well over 100 years in this region. And so I have very deep ties to the region, which is one reason I'm interested in the Historic Preservation Commission. And I have a particular interest in Native American history and food history. I work as the administrator of the history department at Dartmouth, and so it's fills my days. And so when I saw the request for applications, I just thought, I want to do this and contribute to the town.
Excellent, thank you. Comments or questions for Brooke? Yes, Mary?
Brooke, you probably realize this if your family's been here for a long time. There is an Abenaki, or a Benaki, as many people
Yes.
say, group of people. Have
Yes.
you touched base with them?
I have. In fact, I've worked and volunteered at the Abenaki Garden in Quechee, and I'm part of the Upper Valley Seed Savers group, which partners with the Abenaki to grow food and distribute it throughout Vermont. And I also have learned quite a bit, or I have a lot more to learn, but of the communities up and down the Connecticut River as well. And, so,
Great, thank you.
yeah.
That's impressive.
Any other comments, questions? Take a motion?
Did I make a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Brooke, for stepping up, and Tom, I think this is a pretty amazing commission to work on. I was the liaison for a bit, and so I really appreciate the work that's being done. With that said, I will move to appoint Brooke Lehman to the Hartford Historic Preservation Commission for a 3-year term from April 14th, 2026, and ending on April 13th, 2029.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Miranda. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? Congratulations and thank you again.
Yeah, thanks so much for
Appreciate
stepping
your
up.
expertise, yeah. Okay. Next is Pat Otillo. This is a reappointment, so he need not be present. I don't think he is here.
Oh, he's not.
Okay, any things to note about Pat's application before we do the motion? Okay.
I was just gonna say that I've been on on H. Corey before with Pat, and he's very dedicated and does some amazing things with this, and highly recommend him.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same. I'm currently the H. Corey liaison, and yeah, it's been great working with Pat. I think I would be excited to have him continue in that position.
Is there a motion?
I do.
Yes.
I move that the board reappoint Pat Otillo to the Hartford Committee on Racial Equity and Inclusion for a 2-year term from April 14th, 2026 to April 13th, 2028.
Second?
Second from Tim. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Great, congratulations, Pat. And lastly, Anna Fleischman for the West Hartford Library Trustee. Come on up, please, yeah, your name, your village, and some reasons why you're interested in the trustee role.
Okay, I'm Anna Fleischman. I live in West Hartford, and I guess I'm interested in the role because I grew up in West Hartford. I've lived there for most of my life, and the library has always been a very important part of my life, and I bring my daughter there, and I have been for years. And I know they've been down a few people over the last few years, and I just find myself with a little bit of extra time that I can put into helping what's really like the only center in our little village, just kind of be as good a community center as it can be. And yeah, I just want to see our library thrive. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Any questions from folks?
I just have a quick silly question. Do you guys see AT hikers?
Oh, yeah.
Do they, cool.
Yes, they stop at the library a lot. Often when we're there in the summer, there's at least one person that comes in and refills a water bottle, gets some snacks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion? Ashley?
Sure. I move that the select board appoint Anna Fleischman as a West Hartford Library trustee for a 2-year term from April 14th, 2026 and ending April 13th, 2028.
Second. Second from Miranda. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Thank you
you.
very much. Really
Thank
appreciate
you,
you stepping
Anna.
up. Yeah, thank you.
Save the libraries.
I'll be swimming this summer, I promise.
Yes, you're.
We release you.
No, you have to stay the entire year.
Bye. Okay, over to you, John, for the town manager report.
Okay, thank you, Ida. As almost everyone knows by now, I'll be retiring as Hartford's town manager this summer, and I'm committed to affording a smooth transition to my successor. I thank the Select Board for their support during my tenure, and I thank Hartford's dedicated and professional staff for its support as well. Finally, I would like to thank the residents of this wonderful town for their warm welcome, their volunteerism, which we've seen on display tonight, and their communications. So thanks, everybody that I've dealt with over the years. Select Board has selected Rethink Local to perform town manager recruitment services for the town. The board has also adopted a charge to govern the members of that Select Board appointed committee. Select Board also appointed an 8-member committee, which consists of two Select Board members, and that's Tim Ferriel and Miranda Dupre. And also 3 town staffers, that'll be Chief Scott Cooney, Dylan Walsh in AT, and Melinda Brooks in the clerk's office, along with 3 town residents, Jasmine Hawkins, Chuck Worcester, and Jason Smoller. So we thank all of those people, of course, for their willingness to serve in that capacity. I'd like to introduce to all of you our new finance director, Lisa Fredrickson, who is sitting right here.
Hey. Welcome.
She's been here for just into her 3rd week. Yes, very good. And we'd also like to mention that our new finance specialist for accounts receivable, Victoria Decato, began work on Wednesday of last week, April 8th. We welcome her as well and wish her great success in her new position. And now that we have 3 of the 4 positions filled in finance, we're interviewing this week for candidates for an assistant finance director position. That should round out the team, so stay tuned for more on that. Per the Select Board's request, the state of Vermont has appointed Zachary Guthrie Lloyd as the town's deputy health officer. I do want to mention that, as we've noted previously, VOSHA paid a visit to the Quechee wastewater facility in October of last year. We have now received a citation alleging 9 workplace safety violations. Since that VOSHA visit, staff had made numerous improvements and abatement efforts, which we have shared with VOSHA and which we will be discussing with VOSHA at an informal conference to be held day after tomorrow, Thursday, April 16th. This will give us an opportunity to explain our efforts to date, our plans for the future, and to negotiate any proposed fines. I do want to mention that it was good to attend the VLCT Select Board Essentials Seminar this past Saturday with Mike Eigenbrod, so appreciate you joining me for that. I hope we all learned something. What I learned is that our audio problems have nothing on the folks in Stowe who had a difficult time with all of their mics and reverb in a tiny space filled with people and lots of reverb, right?
Oh, yeah.
So don't feel bad, Jim, you're doing fine. One thing I wanted to mention, and I have a flyer for anybody who's interested. It has to do with something I learned at a town manager conference last week, which is that in Chester, they bring in an attorney with municipal experience every year after town meeting to discuss, as it says here on their agenda for tomorrow night, Select Board and town manager roles with attorney Jim Carroll. He's based in Middlebury. So if anybody has curiosity about where the Select Board line ends and the town manager line begins and where they overlap, please feel free to pick up a flyer. If you'd like to tune in at 6:30, it's the first item on the agenda. So,
Which day did you say that is, John?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
yeah. I don't know if it's going to be recorded, but if you wanted to catch it for sure, you'd want to tune in then. A few more announcements from around other departments. The Environmental Sustainability Coordinator notes that progress is being made on assessing the town hall heat pump system. An RFP is currently being drafted to solicit bids from engineering firms to help assess the system, develop a plan for addressing the system, assisting with drafting HVAC-related RFPs, vendor selection, and commissioning any systems that are installed as a result of the project. Dana looks forward to updating the Select Board at the next meeting on April 28th. I think he's also working with JD on a facility tour survey to be sent out soon to Select Board members, I think, and the members of the public as well. town manager, department heads, and the environmental sustainability coordinator are looking forward to giving members of the board and the general public tours of some of the town's many buildings. The goal is to get the select board familiar with town facilities, what they do, and any challenges associated with them. Parks and Rec reports that staff within their Parks Division have been busy with spring cleanup duties after the winter season. Most of the park gates have been open for the season, and routine maintenance will begin right about now. The department received an initial approval for a food truck vendor permit for several of the parks this spring through fall season. The areas have been posted, and the department will come before the board to review vendor permit fees at the April 28th meeting. As parks open for the spring season, they ask that pet owners abide by the town's leash and dog ordinance. The town has a leash law that prohibits pet owners from having dogs off leash in public parks. There are 3 locations where dogs can be off leash: Watson Dog Park, Hurricane Hill Wildlife Refuge, and the Kilowatt South off-leash designated area. Planning Department notes, as did Eric, that Green Up Day is approaching. This year will be the first Saturday in May as usual, May 2nd. Preparations are in full swing. There's at the Bugby there will be an accessory dwelling unit workshop coordinating with the Senior Center and AARP on a 3-day series of ADU-related workshops during an intensive May 11th through May 13th, 5 to 7 p.m. series. Interested folks can contact Lexi Webster at Planning. There is continuing effort on village beautification according to the Planning Department. Planning for spring plantings is underway for all village centers, even West Hartford. We're working with Pike Industries on scheduling the road paving for this fiscal year, which will also include replacement of culverts on those roads. That's from the Public Works Department. They also note that as to the Highway Division, they're cleaning up tree branches and trees all over town. They've done multiple days of pothole repairs around town. They've started gravel road repairs with potholes and grading. They're continuing to sweep streets, and they have had a trash pickup duty on Queechee Heartland Road and Park and Ride. A couple more things. Thank you for your patience. Fire Department wanted to emphasize their pride with helping out in a water rescue at the Queechee, Maine and Mill Run condominiums, where a mother and child were in the river in their car for a time, thankfully escaped with their lives with quick response from the local and regional fire departments. Luckily, no serious injuries reported. Of course, there was a suspicious fire in the abandoned homeless encampment under the Urban Bridge area, and there have been some cleanup efforts underway. We are seeking legal counsel as to whether, if the private landowner refuses to perform cleanup on their property, whether the town can collect or be reimbursed from that landowner if we do the work ourselves through a contractor. So we're staying tuned for legal information on that issue. Nicholas Alden has submitted his resignation effective April 18th. Nicholas has been a valued member of the fire department, and while we're sorry to see him leave, we fully support his decision, which is based on personal and family considerations. He departs on excellent terms and has been encouraged to reapply should circumstances allow in the future. Also at Hartford Fire, Deputy Chief Jason Zora will retire effective May 13th of this year. Since joining the department in July 8th of 2019, he's provided strong leadership and played a major role in improving training programs and advancing departmental policies. His impact on the organization has been significant and positive, and they extend their appreciation and best wishes for a well-earned retirement. Finally, Lieutenant Paramedic Keith Morse has officially submitted his notice of retirement effective April 30th. Lieutenant Morse has served Hartford for 20 years with professionalism, integrity, and dedication. He's been a highly respected leader, mentor, and paramedic, and his contributions to our operations and patient care have been substantial. His presence will be greatly missed, and we thank him sincerely for his service. Police Department notes that analyst Amy Wunderlich has updated the public safety dashboard and generated static reports, which can be reviewed or viewed on the Police Department's website for those interested in police activity. Police Liaison Shay Harris has been meeting with community members and going on calls with the Patrol Outreach and Criminal Investigations Divisions. She, as you remember, is supplied to HPD by HCRS. The substance use responder, Ms. George, has been following up on Patrol Division referrals to help those struggling with substance use disorder. I think that I'm down the home stretch. Thank you for your patience. And indeed, that's my report.
Thank you, John. Any questions for John? Eric?
Thank you. Just one point of clarification, because the Conservation Commission is currently discussing this and working on updating the signage in the town forest. Yes, dogs can be off leash, but with the condition that they are under voice control. And so there's, I think, been some complaints. I'm not sure about Hurricane Hill, but this is true of the town forest. You can have your dog off leash, but you got to be able to get your dog back by voice control.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or points? Great. All right, we will move on to community commission updates, and tonight I believe we have the zoning board of adjustment here. Yes, great. Yeah, feel free to come on up, introduce yourself, and give us an update.
Okay, my name is Stephanie Guile. I'm the chair of the zoning board. I have been in that role for a little bit less than a year. I've been on the zoning board since November of 2021. We have a vacancy currently. We've had it for about a year. So if anybody knows of anybody that would be a good fit, that would be great. The three members we have now, the vice chair is Steve Lagasse, who's been the longtime chair. He transitioned over to vice chair recently, but the other members have been on for 15 plus years. So really lucky to have a lot of experience there and institutional knowledge. Same for Joanne, the zoning administrator. She's been here a long time and is fantastic. I couldn't be happier that she is a zoning administrator, and she just helps us out so much and knows so much. I do work with a lot of other zoning administrators. I work for the state of Vermont. I'm an Act 250 coordinator, and I've been in that role for quite a while. And Joanne is, I mean, I think that it's safe to say that she's probably the best, or one of the best zoning administrators in the state. So we're so lucky to have her. Oh, and she put some statistics together for me to tell you. It's been a slow year this year. Applications have been pretty straightforward, just some setback waivers. For comparison, we had 11 applications in fiscal year 24, only 3 in fiscal year 25, and this year, fiscal year 26, again, only 3 applications. Joanne contacts me as well as the Planning Commission chair about administrative permits. There have been several of those. And then just generally, if you're not familiar, other things that the zoning board reviews are conditional uses. So some types of work that occur in the floodplain, setback waivers, appeals of the zoning administrator's decisions, and then again, we do administrative permits. And Eric Kraus is our new liaison, who we met last meeting. We haven't been having meetings. We usually meet every 5 weeks, but we don't have meetings if there's no applications. So we did have a meeting last month. We do not have one this month. And that's all I have. But I'm happy to answer questions or talk about anything else.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? Ashley?
I have a question, but I forgot it. Okay. And I'm wondering if it will come back to me with the pressure.
There is a statute of limitations.
Is there? Does anyone else have
The other, well,
questions?
Eric has one? Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Stephanie. I can probably learn this during the next meeting, but just for the benefit of everyone, what is the board's role, or what will the board's role be in the zoning regulations updates that are happening or will be happening this summer?
I don't know.
Okay.
Although I think Joanne might have mentioned at the last meeting, and I think that maybe I'll have a role as the chair. If I don't have a formal role, I would appreciate an opportunity to review them, even if I have some sort of informal feedback. But yeah, I would really like to take a look at those. I review state applications for Act 250, which Act 250 incorporates a lot of other kind of permits. So I think that there are some things to consider as far as, I mean, just that I have some opinions on to consider for zoning changes. But I'm sure the Planning Commission, I would imagine they draft them up. And, you know, hopefully maybe I will have a role, but maybe others too. It would be nice if the whole zoning board could maybe weigh in since they are so experienced. But so I can't give you a definitive answer, but just kind of what I would like to see happen and hope that we have a role in that, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Oh, please. Oh,
Sure. Yeah, if you want to, Laura, you want to come to the mic, sure.
Yes, thank you.
A little bit more insight, and I apologize for you not having them. So just as a general rule, the update of the zoning regulations, as any of the regulations within the town and within our department, are within the purview of the Planning Commission, and that's part of their responsibility statutorily. That being said, it's very often what we do is we do like a steering committee that's sponsored through the Planning Commission, which would involve representation from the zoning board, as well as from different members of our staff, as well as from any commissions or committees, you know, that would be involved in some way, in some capacity. So we do try and make it as broad as possible, recognizing all of the great insight that we get from our all of our commission members. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Ashley?
I thought of my question. I wondered, since I'm so impressed by how successful the listserv post looking for folks to join the Historic Preservation Committee was, if you have had a post in the listserv about your opening.
They have been running. I mean, I've just noticed that they have been running. Yes.
Okay, is that, I'm not on the listserv. I have to take my Facebook as my punishment. Is it a full slate of all the committee openings that runs?
Let's put it this way, I don't know those details, but I know that JD has made a concerted effort to try to do a better job advertising about vacancies.
Cool,
I
awesome.
do subscribe to the listserv because I don't have Facebook, so that's my punishment.
See how you have to.
Yes, when they post the openings, they post all of the committees and how many openings they have. So I don't remember the last time they posted it, but it was fairly recently. So hopefully you'll get some hits soon.
And it's happened I noticed it has happened a few times over the year that there's been a vacancy. Yeah. And I asked Joanne and she said there haven't been any people inquiring, so. Which it's a good committee to be on. I mean, once every 5 weeks, only if meetings are needed. I mean, that's, someone's looking for sort of a low commitment to town involvement. It's less than the Planning Commission or some of the others, so.
Yeah, I mean, one possibility could be you could reach out through John to work with the communication specialist for like a kind of more tailored ad in the listserv or other places if you want to just give a little bit more of the details of the benefits of being on the committee. And, you know, I'm sure that could be something that they could do if you want to try to draw a little more interest through some marketing.
Sure.
Yeah, just an idea. It's up to you.
Let's be in touch and discuss it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Good luck.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move forward. As we mentioned before, we will not be hearing from the tree board tonight. That will be on a future agenda. And so we'll go on to the contract for the country lane repairs.
Is that Todd?
Oh, this is Todd. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you in 3 dimensions.
That's what I was thinking. It's definitely better to see everybody in person, so thank you for having us. As you probably are aware, Country Lane was washed out during the flood of 2023. It is eligible for FEMA reimbursement. We did receive bids from, I think it was 6 different contractors. 2 were incomplete. They didn't acknowledge that there was an addendum. It didn't affect the bid on this. So it wasn't a huge issue as long as we can still sign contracts with our low bidder. It was within the estimate of probable construction cost by our engineer, which was favorable to us. As Chris points out, there was a little bit of a shortfall from the initial FEMA aid that was provided, but there is a remedy to that, a potential remedy. After we get done with this, and this is our last project as part of the 2023 flood event, we can go in and appeal for additional funds. Not guaranteed, but probably in our best interest if we have a shortfall in the eligible amounts of FEMA reimbursement to what we received. So if everything plays out as we expect it, then we'll probably be requesting that appeal and moving forward. But we do have the money in our reserves for that. Very good price. I've worked with a contractor before several times in my previous occupation, and they do quality work, very reputable. So our request is to move forward with and allow the town manager to sign a contract with Blue Mountain Trucking of Rygate, Vermont for $114,275.
Okay, great. Thank you for that overview. Any questions for Todd about this item? Yes, Mary?
Don, how long will this take to do the work?
I don't believe we have an estimate of the timeframe. It needs to be completed by July, and that's
Okay.
why we got it out as quick as we did. Chris worked very diligently to get that completed. His last piece was making sure we had the temporary easements to put that essentially retaining wall in, the slope stability project. But I think they're ready to roll. Many of the contractors are. They're usually, as the snow leaves, they're ready to get back to work. So, the winter's
Great.
pretty long for everybody, so.
Great, thank you.
Ashley?
Yeah, thank you. I was just curious, in reviewing the different bids, why you think Blue Mountain is so much less than all of the competitors.
So I think Blue Mountain was close. The other 2 were almost at what the engineer's estimate was. It's a little less. Blue Mountain Trucking is affiliated with a pit owner. Jeremy Bogie, the owners of Blue Mountain Trucking's father, owns a lot of pits. And of course, we have rock that's coming in here. So, some of that could be that having that availability. And Chief Bogie, Jeremy's father, owns quite a few pits around Vermont and along the Connecticut River Valley. So that could be a big piece of it. And obviously, getting people back to work is always a big one. The 2 that didn't make it on the list definitely kind of bring things back into perspective. They were right around 150,000, which was just a little over what the engineer's estimate was, which was 147,000. But again, a lot of it is availability of product, and if that's there, then things get a lot less expensive, to put it that way.
Okay, so you don't have any, there's no elements included in the other listed quotes that aren't included in the Blue Mountain?
No, we did notice that one of the advertisements somehow came up with, and I don't know if it was AI generated, but came up with some estimate that wasn't anything that we'd asked for, that put it about at what the highest bid was from United Construction. So I'm not sure if that tainted some of them, as we all know that AI can sometimes guess what we're looking for, but it may not even be in this area. But like I said, they've done multiple jobs across the state. many, many areas across the state in the past, in my previous occupation. So, and like I said, they're reputable, they do good work. They're usually fairly efficient, and I think that obviously helps.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other final questions? Okay, if not, I'm ready for a motion. Thanks, Mary.
I move that the Select Board award Blue Mountain Trucking and Excavating a contract and utilize up to $52,033.68 of highway infrastructure reserves and $15,280.26 of highway engineering reserves to fund the local share of the project.
Thank you.
Second.
Second from Miranda.
Make a
Discussion.
friendly amendment.
Yes?
Would you accept the amendment, a contract in the amount of $114,275?
To acknowledge that there's, okay, just the full amount of the contract being part of the motion?
Right.
Okay. Mary, do you accept
Oh,
that
yes,
amendment?
absolutely.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, great, thank you,
Thank you.
Todd. And our next item, solid waste. Okay, so this is on the solid waste implementation program, the SWIP grant funding. Yes, again, just give us a brief high-level overview, that'd be great, thank you.
Okay, real quickly, so the State of Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation every year provides some grant funding for implementing different solid waste practices. One of them is our household hazardous waste collection. We're actually putting in for the 2025 grant that we received this previous fiscal year. That's due by the end of this month. So we're putting in for, it's almost exactly the same amount, actually, I think it is $6,931. So it's mainly for us to continue with the collection of household hazardous waste and some other solid waste implementation that we already do, recycling, et cetera. So, we meet the eligibility. We do have a variance this year, not to have two, so we can update the household hazardous waste, and that's something we're going to be talking about at a later date. But that is one of the criteria that's in there, is that household hazardous waste collection that we did last year, I believe in May.
It won't come close to covering that cost, but we can't look at it skeptically. We're happy to receive the money, right?
Exactly. Yeah, a little bit helps, for sure.
Great, yeah, always appreciate the seeking of grants. Any questions on this item? Okay, ready for a motion then?
Ida?
Okay, Miranda.
I move that the board approve the town manager signing the SWIP grant and the grant monies be used to offset solid waste activities and costs.
I'll second.
Second from Tim. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Excellent, thank you.
Thank you,
That was
Todd.
pretty easy for your first meeting.
Yeah.
I like those.
Yeah.
I like those softballs, I
thanks.
can't hit the hard ball anymore. It comes too fast. So,
And thanks for coming in person, it's
yeah,
good
thank you very
to
much.
see
It's
you.
great to see everybody.
Good to meet
in
you,
person.
yeah,
too.
yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to authorizing a community service officer to issue tickets. This is brought to us by,
Chief Kelly, and
Okay.
she's with us remotely.
okay,
As I understand it, certain officers by law are entitled to issue tickets, like police officers, for example, while others need special appointment so that the courts know to accept those tickets and process them and allow them to participate in the judicial process on behalf of the town. And this new CSO is one of those people, and I think Chief Kelly can confirm or deny what I've just said.
sure, yeah, Chief, do you add anything?
I'm here. Yes, you're correct, John.
Okay. Any questions for the chief on this item?
I have a few.
Yeah, sure, Tim.
Hey, Chief Kelly, when are we, I know we have the parking thing that's gonna be launched at some point, hopefully this summer, but, is this, if we authorize this, are we able to enforce any other violations? One of my pet peeves in downtown is people parking in handicap spots when they're not supposed to. So do we have any, do you anticipate this kind of starting, or what's the kind of the transition and thought around that?
Yes, so this basically what I'm asking for tonight is for you guys to sign a document that allows us to have him issued a traffic ticket number that will allow him to write tickets. Those tickets are going to be municipal tickets. One of the questions that Eric had earlier is what type of ordinances can he cover with that? And basically any municipal type ordinance, so that is enforceable by a municipal ticket. So solid waste, parking, noise ordinance, animal control, things of those nature. So anything that has a fee associated with it that is able to be issued via a municipal ticket. So yes, he'll be able to go downtown, issue those types of tickets for parking enforcement on handicap parking as well.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Ashley?
Yeah, thank you. I guess my question is around that. So we're giving permission or granting authority for him to enforce any town ordinances as the motion is written. And I guess I'm curious about what the process is for, other sworn officers don't have to come to us for that permission. And so, what's the structure there, and what are maybe some drawbacks of the board giving this authority versus the, institution of policing giving that authority? I guess I'm just trying to understand that.
Because he's a civilian officer, so he's a municipal official. Same as you, any of you on the select board can also issue these tickets. It would just be that you would have to go and enforce them and sign yourself up to get a judicial ticket number. Because you are, as the select board, you are also municipal officers. You're just assigning him the official duties to do that.
Wouldn't that impact our chance of getting elected?
Greatly.
Yes, probably, which would be why you'd want to delegate that authority to Zach to do that as a community service officer.
Right, thanks for explaining that. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
thank you. That's
Yeah.
really helpful.
And you should know, by the way, that the CSO is receiving training day in, day out by HPD on these kind of functions. Is that not correct, Chief?
Yes.
Excellent, great, well, thanks for all the work to bring Zachary up to speed and up to his full capacity of his position. Ashley?
He's doing a great job.
Great, good to hear, good.
Thanks. I have one other question, just related to the health officer role in this. I guess, is it likely or is it possible that, I'm sure there are certain things that, for example, Brett, if he were focused on issuing tickets, he could issue tickets for that he comes across in his health officer role. And so I guess I'm curious about if you imagine that there will be any shift in health officer enforcement, and that we'll see more citations related to, public safety type issues.
Those are two very separate roles. Health officer, he has training that he is doing strictly with Brett on those functions. Those are not necessarily things that are enforced via a municipal ordinance. So the tickets are municipal ordinance, health officer is something completely separate in the functions.
Okay, thank you. And Tim?
I think your question is really interesting, and it just came to mind to me that in my dealings with Brett over the years, he has sort of a very unique style. He's very curative, and as opposed, and I'm not saying they're polar opposites, but as opposed to punitive approaches, he definitely tries to seek solutions, which I think is very inspiring. So I think we should arguably as a community, keep an eye on that, that we really are trying to build new pathways and new solutions and not necessarily always punish people for what's happening in their lives and so on. So we should, that's something, I think it's a good discussion point that we should perhaps visit later this year.
For example, in my 2.5 years here, Brett has only asked for a select board or Board of Health meeting once, and even that was not needed because there was compliance toward the end of the process. So I certainly agree with you that certain enforcement actions from the health officer should be done cooperatively as best as possible with the health board only serving as a last resort.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, good points. Would someone like to make a motion? I believe we could use this last sentence of the state for the
First
later.
sentence, I am requesting that
Oh,
would work.
is there?
Happy to make the motion.
Okay, Eric's got it, sounds like.
I move that the select board authorize the community service officer, Zachary Guthrie Lloyd, to issue municipal ordinance and parking violation tickets.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Sorry.
Okay,
Doesn't matter.
all you.
Okay.
Mary second.
Great.
Other discussion? Yes, Ashley.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote no, and I wanna explain my vote because it's not anything against Zach. But I have two reasons, and one is that I've continued to vote no on anything related to parking enforcement because I'm just like morally opposed to it, and I think I represent a number of my constituents who are opposed to it. And then the second reason being that I just have that concern about the health officer position bleeding into an enforcement police position, and I have a lot of reservations about that. So I just wanted to explain that, and it's nothing against Zachary or, anyone else. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Abstain? Okay. Great. Good job.
Thank you, and Ida will need your signature on a form.
Yes, I will sign the form, and thank you, Chief Kelly.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the BCDP grant-related task force. Miranda.
Yes, so, just wanted to get a sense from the board of, what we think is most important for this committee, because I'm hoping that I'll continue to meet with Andrew, and some of his staff to kind of work out the details. But I'd like some direction on what we feel are kind of like our non-negotiables for this committee, and what aspects of it that we think are important, something that I sent an email a little bit earlier today, but I met with Andrew again yesterday, and so I'll just recap that email that I sent to the board. So the concern, I met with Andrew, Jenny, which is their Director of Property Management, and Alan, who's their board chair. Their main concerns were surrounding the open meeting process. They're worried that the meetings will not be able to stay on topic and will be derailed by public comment. I think that if we did make this a non-public meeting, that we should opt for more frequent updates. I also think if it's a non-public meeting that we should have one select board liaison instead of two, just to avoid any open meeting law complications. I also feel though that a big piece of the working group, for me at least as an individual select board member, was that there's accountability. And so I do feel that it's pretty important that they're held following open meeting law, but I think I wanted to hear from the board like how everyone else felt about that. Another thing was that they're concerned about was individual issues rising to the top and individuals' issues rising to the top and taking up the meeting rather than it being more broad. I think that the survey could mitigate that. Twin Pines, and I also shared that out with the board, sent us their current survey questions. They're also working with the Dartmouth Center for Social Impact to update their survey and their dissemination of their survey. So I think if the committee finds that the data that they need is covered in those survey topics, and they feel that the dissemination is equitable and meets requirements for like full anonymity, then that could be something that we change from my current proposal. They also are concerned about the town honoring fund disbursement later. So, you know, this project is going to take probably a lot of documents that we'll have to sign, or other boards will have to sign over the next few years. And so they're worried that if the working group is not going as the select board wants, then we will not allow the project to move forward. I don't really have any stopgates, is that the word? What word am I looking for? Anyway, I don't really have any ideas on how to quell those anxieties. I think that hopefully we'll build a relationship through this, and that will be enough. And then they were also concerned about the meeting frequency, and they thought that a monthly meeting that lasts 1 to 1.5 hours would be a better fit for their staff's capacity. And also that maybe we could change the meeting language to like regular as needed. So if the group starts to meet and they're meeting monthly, and then they find, oh, actually, you know, we're giving each other tasks and we're going off, and quarterly works better, that they could make those types of adjustments. So yeah, that's what I've got.
Okay, thank you. So essentially the ask for tonight is for input on requirements for a task force, so you can further work with Twin Pines to figure out if that's possible.
Yeah, I would also ask too, I think, I don't want us to be down to the wire when we're deciding on this and kind of just like haphazardly working out the details. So also if the board, I don't think we would have to like vote on this, but I think in my ideal world, right, June's right around the corner, I think we should have this finalized by the next meeting. I'll work really hard to work with the Twin Pines staff to do that. But that would be what I would be most comfortable with. I think if we don't have a vote on this by the next meeting, I wouldn't be comfortable moving forward with this, because it just kind of doesn't feel good to get into the nitty gritty all the way up until the final moment, and then we just agree on whatever because we're up against the wall. So that's my 2 cents there.
Miranda, do you feel you have like a good overlay in terms of just the general framework and structure around this? I mean, number one, I think honestly, we arrived at this place in sort of an odd manner, and I'm not personally, I'm not necessarily, you know, I hate the term, you know, letting Twin Pines off the hook, but I just think we arrived here in a really weird way, in the sense that we had these, you know, percolating issues and concerns around large scale rental projects, and things were coming up. You know, we're concerned about the burden it puts on the town in terms of services and so on, and, you know, have other concerns. So we're sort of like taking this $1 million grant thing and leveraging it and saying to this one entity, hey, we want you to do this, this, and this. Like, that's kind of where we arrived. And, you know, the more I've sort of pondered this and thought about it, I don't think it's ideal, right? I think, and maybe Lori and Lexi, you guys can speak to this at some point, but to me, it's like we should be, as a town, setting up kind of like a reasonable kind of structural overlay that says, hey, if you're operating rental property or whatever in our town, these are kind of our guidelines and expectations on how it will go. And if it starts to not go astray from that, here's some of the pathways or concerns or whatever. Like, I think there needs to be a broader brush here long-term in our community, where we're taking, you know, let's not focus on Twin Pines, let's just do a broader overlay that is sensible, reasonable, and works for all parties involved. And I don't think we've gotten there. I think we're kind of struggling with, you know, we have this deadline with this grant, and oh my God, Twin Pines, and they're supposed to have this plan in place, but I don't think it's an ideal model for us for how we should, you know, get to these solutions.
Thank you.
Can I respond? Sure. No, I agree, Tim. I do not think that this was like an ideal way to get here. I do think that this is a good solution. I think, right, I think Eric spoke to this a little bit when we were making this decision originally, was that like, we couldn't take the time to really think about what the best way to move forward with this was. It was like, we have to make a decision on if they can submit this grant. and we have to do it now. And so we kind of like pulled this together. I do think it is a good solution though, because I think that, right, the last charge of this group would kind of be finding a way for the town to support these public-private partnerships. I think talking about like all landlords is a little difficult because we aren't in partnership. We aren't kind of giving those landlords our stamp of approval. But I think with Twin Pines and like entering these types of partnerships, where essentially the town is giving a stamp of approval because we're co-signing on this grant, we're gonna be like the facilitator of this money. And so I feel like we have more responsibility. I'm hoping that this committee at the end of it, so at the end of the 2 years, they'll come back to the board and say, hey, actually the committee model really worked and we think we should use that for all public-private partnerships that have to do with housing. Or actually we think that, you know, you should just have them check off these boxes or something else, but some type of way to ensure that like these partnerships are meeting the town's needs. Is that okay? I don't know. Those are my thoughts at least.
Yeah, I just wanna kind of go real quick and then you, Ashley. I think I spoke with Miranda about this. I think my sense currently is like the vision and plan for the task force that Miranda laid out is like super thoughtful and admirable, and to me it kind of represents like a ambitious ideal that I would love for us as a community to strive for as we think about you know, general approach to landlord-tenant relationships and town, you know, property developer relationships. I think it's a useful guide, but I do see it as like a long-term potential goal. And for me in the short term, just to answer your question of like, what are the like must-haves in order to feel like Twin Pines is adhering to the motion that we had passed before, it would be to really see like a documented safety plan for 444 Sykes Mountain Avenue that has description of roles of the 5 social service agencies, and then, you know, the part where we said demonstrating meaningful collaboration, to me that would look like those agencies, you know, signing on through letters of support or some other demonstration that they were involved and that it's something that's going to be, you know, there's going to be a check-in structure to move forward with that collaboration. So I know that's very different from the what you had laid out, which includes much more, yeah, like, you know, the tenant involvement, which I think is really important. But that's sort of like the, you know, sort of the bare minimum vision that I see is, that I hope is feasible in the short term in terms of asking for Twin Pines to work with us in this way. And I do want this to be something that we keep as a, you know, kind of guiding star, like where we would like to be going in the future in this space.
So, can I clarify? Were you thinking of the task force as the social service agencies? Is that the task force that you imagined?
That is what, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like representatives from those agencies, yeah, so more on the service provider side, which isn't the full picture, but that, yeah, like I said, kind of bare minimum approach to what I would feel comfortable with in terms of aligning with what we had agreed upon.
I think to add to that too, something that Andrew mentioned when we were meeting was that they're not allowed to talk about individual tenants. So I don't know that a task force with these social service agencies would be that useful, because they're gonna meet and they're just gonna be able to talk about, I mean, like, yes, I think it would be useful sharing updates with each other, but like they can't say, hey, you know, X needs support in this way, can you help them? They're not allowed to. And so it wouldn't be helping or servicing tenants as much. It would just be, yeah, kind of that more high level.
Can you,
Can I
are you
speak to
able?
that?
Okay, yeah, let's.
Sorry.
Just, well, to that specific point, I don't think that I'm not interested in knowing like individuals receiving services or in need of services, but I think what is really lacking for me is the understanding of what services Twin Pines has, like, for example, an MOU to access with these partner organizations, and what the protocol is to engage those services. You know, like that, like the actual structure of what's our toolbox? Is it the HCRS like emergency hotline, which is an alternative to calling the police? Is it, yeah, all these resources that exist. I'm not convinced that they, A, either know of all those resources, and B, have a protocol for when to deploy them. So that could be something that we could work to develop and could then be a really great template for other property managers that either want grant money and want to satisfy our expectations, or just want to be, you know, voluntarily like doing great things for their tenants.
I think so with this, my understanding of what Andrew kind of explained was that the way that they like, the access to services that they have and how they can be engaged is really just like, if someone is in a situation where they could use like WISE's services, all that Twin Pines can do is give them a card and say, I hope you reach out. And that's it.
Sure. They
If-
can't refer people for
No.
services? I mean, I think these are all things that
Sorry,
the
that's-
task
I'm
force
just-
could,
yeah.
but these are things that the working group could explore, is like, what are ways that we could better reach people? What are, you know, 'cause-
Oh, that's what you want to see in the task
Yeah,
force?
yeah,
Okay.
like, I think
Those
that's
safety
something
plan.
the working
Right,
group, because
right.
same, for me, same bare minimum is like letters of support from all these like organizations listed on their websites that partner for support services, at least the 5 core ones, Ida. And yeah, like backing this up, right? Like this is a unique situation as a developer where they qualify for all these public dollars because they're not a for-profit company that can like do whatever they want. But then what assurance do we have as the public that like any of these supportive service organizations have any agreement or relationship with them?
Yeah, that's what, I think that's exactly what I'm speaking to too. Just sort of like a general protocol document. If there are limitations, there are limitations, but it would be great to just see it documented in one place of like, this is what we're able to do, this is the process, our staff is aware that this is the process, and the organizations are aware and in support of the process as well, whatever that may be. And then the check-ins can be like, how is the process going? You know, not at the individual level, tenant level, but just like that more so like checking in about this protocol, process, safety plan that's been outlined, and if there needs to be adjustments along the way, how are they gonna tackle those? Tim.
I just think that we as a select board should be careful, because it feels like we're getting into the weeds on this. And what I mean by that is, I think the directive is that Twin Pines, we want you to solve this. Now, how you get there, or what you use for tools, or what structure you're gonna use, that's their work. I don't really think we should be going that far where we're saying, oh, well, you need to touch base with this agency and so on. I think that's a big mistake. I think we should be saying, you know, we expect your building to be well-run and safe and, you know, not be an undue burden to the town. And beyond that, it's their job to create that structure and program that works for that. Now, whether they use WISE or don't, or HERS goes away and they choose another tool to help them, that's up to them. I don't think it's appropriate for us as a select board to not only give them, you know, hey, we want you to get here, and oh, by the way, we want you to turn left on that street. We're getting too detailed on that. I think it should be a more general requirement that they do what they, you know, should do, and how they get there is up to them.
Okay, thank you. So comments from this side, yes, Eric.
Thank you. Yes, Tim, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I'll circle back to that in a moment. I think, first of all, if you've mentioned this, Miranda, I apologize, but we'd probably be remiss in saying that Twin Pines has a board meeting tonight and could not be here.
Oh, yes. No, I did not.
And that also they are still intending to provide some feedback to your proposal, right? If I understood correctly. So with those items out of the way, and circling back to Tim's point, I agree, we don't need to be prescriptive. But what I've been advocating for, and I think the survey may help in this direction, is understanding year over year the trend line on some of these things, right? What we're interested in is the public good. And so quality of life is a factor there. The safety plan is very important, but the quality of life is important as well. And the survey may help us capture some of that. I didn't have a chance to go through it in detail yet. And I know it may change. And I think actually from what I read, there are some changes that there's some improvements that could be made. But I want a future board, if faced with a similar decision, to have information, rather than having to base a decision on a he said, she said thing, right? So we've got the employees representing Twin Pines, and then we've got public, in a public hearing, making comments, and we don't really know how to sift through that. And so as a board, or as a future board, whatever, there has to be some basis for decision-making so that we could say, look, this is perfectly within the public good, because even though there are problems, here's where the trend lines are going on these X number of metrics, right? And so that keeps us back into the sort of, this is our terrain of looking at the public good rather than telling you exactly what needs to be done. And so for me, that's a must-have. You have to be able to make a decision based on evidence and data in the future.
Yes, let's go Mary and then Miranda.
If you could speak up louder, I think it's going to be difficult for people to hear at home.
Because the fan?
Because of the fan.
Sound's been brutal.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna repeat all that.
It was beautiful.
So I can turn it off, but you'll have to open Windows. Is that the
I would prefer
trade-off?
that.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It's really problematic.
We probably don't even need to open windows, right?
If you pull the mic close to your mouth, it tends to project.
Do you think we need to open windows? It's hot outside.
Right, because also Andrew will.
So Miranda, in thinking, when you said you've spoken to Andrew and the rest of, some of the other members of Twin Pines, and there were some concerns about people derailing and complaining. I know you addressed this a little bit, but it didn't sound to me like there was any kind of alignment with Twin Pines about how you could address that. Because I will say, sometimes that happens here. There are people who have actually even talked to me recently who have said, I've said, why don't you come to the board meeting? Absolutely not. There's too many people who will get on my case and be negative. And that's happened over the years. So there is an issue that we have, whether it's in Twin Pines or whether it's even here in Hartford in the board, in our room. So I don't know how we address that to make sure that people feel comfortable, or that people who are, maybe negative, how do we prevent that from overtaking the good work that's trying to be done? I don't know if anybody has any solution. I don't know if there is some possibilities, but I don't know. Did you talk with Andrew about that?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously there's no perfect, if it's a public meeting. So yeah, I think the options are whether it's a public or non-public meeting. If it's a non-public meeting, then you don't have those problems. And I think if it is a public meeting, then I think, kind of maybe establishing that this is not a place for individual complaints. We're looking at survey results that we've compiled, and we're taking on these top issues that were named, kind of gets to that. I also think whoever is the chair would have to be a strong facilitator. And I also, in the proposal currently, would hope to bring in an outside facilitator for the first meeting or two, just to kind of ground set, and so that everyone can come to the table as one, so that it's not it's the town over here and the tenants over here and the landlord over here, and we're all coming to this table to fight and gripe, we're all coming to the table as one. We'll all sit amongst each other and really try to get this work done together. Now that I know is me living in la la world. I wish the world did work like that. But people can surprise us. Yeah. I think with the right facilitation, that could happen.
Okay, thank you. Great, thanks. And hoping to keep us maybe even on schedule. I'm wondering if we can wrap up in the next few minutes here. Looks like Lori wants to chime in.
Yeah, if I could just offer some insights or observations from my perspective. The question, first of all, one of the questions came up, how do you deal with the long-term focus of the task force and in the more immediate situation of the application that's going forward for, and I thought, well, maybe I can give a little bit of clarity on that. And I think it goes back to what I talked about at the last meeting of, we are doing some dual tracks here. One is the responsibility of Twin Pines to develop 4444, which is the application site, a safety plan, which does have an overlap with what some of the task force is trying to achieve on a broader scale. But that, to me, is the sort of like the driving document to say, yes, we're going to go forward in June. And we even set up different timelines for that particular activity so that it would feed into the June decision. I think we also had for the task force that we wanted to make sure that listening to some of the concerns that may have come out for Twin Pines Housing Trust, and please, from my perspective, there are other things that we hear and are brought to our attention of housing situations in other apartment buildings that may not have anything to do with Twin Pines, but could benefit from a long-term objective of looking at tenant and landlord relationships and how to solve some of those problems. So I really do think we have two parallel, somewhat overlapping at different times, but in this situation, in order to meet the grant requirements, I really think the focus was primarily on 444, but we didn't want, or you didn't want to have the intersect between the two as the safety plan is being developed, that there was going to be an ongoing conversation with the thought that the task force might be a little bit further along at this juncture. So I would say that you shouldn't necessarily short sight the good development of the task force from the perspective of, oh, we've got to rush to this June deadline. Use the safety plan that Twin Pines is bringing forward, is in dialogue with you, Miranda, as a representative, to help shape that, because of the intersect between this and what you're thinking about for the task force. So I think you do have a way to move forward with that, and my understanding is that Twin Pines is on that track. Their intent was to have a draft available so that it would be something you could see at the next meeting. That's the goal that we've talked about. Cool. So I do think that there is a path forward, and you don't have to feel like you're going to have to rush and make those decisions when you really need the time to have these very important discussions. Make sure it's coming into the place the way you as a group feel it needs to come to place. And that you're going to be able to have something that does have a broader and more, the time to think out those different components.
Okay, thank you,
And
Lori.
so that's really what I wanted to make sure that you were aware of.
Appreciate
So,
that, that's very
okay.
helpful. Okay, Ashley?
Yes, thank you. Because I do feel like this is really important because it is, well, I agree with Lori's prioritization. It is a requirement for us in our motion for this to be in good standing to move forward on the next phase in June. And I don't want to muddy any waters that that's not the case, whether or not we agree on it now, like that's what we voted. So my first question, I guess, is for John. Is there any reason that the working group would need to be in public meeting if there are not more than 3 select board members?
I don't think so. I think the key is a select board quorum.
Okay. So I'm totally fine and think that I did not imagine that these meetings would be in public forum. I imagine that they would not be as productive, and yeah, we really need to like hone in and get some work done.
Not necessarily as candid either.
Yeah, so that's one thing. The biggest concern for me is that Miranda, when I looked at your proposal, I was like, wow, yeah, this is super ambitious. I think like Ida said, like best case scenario that we might imagine as like how, like what kind of controls or influence we might have. And what I anticipated was, okay, Twin Pines is going to come back and say, here's what we're comfortable with. Here's a revised version. Like, yeah, we don't want to use your survey. We have our own survey, or we're not comfortable with this committee makeup. We'd rather it be this makeup. And like I myself thought of, we don't want to talk about any other units. We only want to talk about 444. There are all kinds of things that they could have countered and said, we want to narrow the focus. And the fact that they didn't is to me, not a sign that they're interested really in developing a meaningful working group. I feel like the idea is that maybe we'll sit in a room once a month and say something that's not built in any kind of like meaningful metric, and it'll appease the board and they'll get their grant and it's over. That is how like I feel, given that we're this far along in the process and we've received no meaningful proposals from Twin Pines. I can appreciate that they have a board meeting tonight and they couldn't be here, but our inboxes are always open. I know Miranda's gone to meet with them more than once and has asked in well advance for their feedback on this. So I'm prepared to vote no on moving forward on the grant if this doesn't have like a seriously improved urgency on the part of Twin Pines. Again, I'm totally flexible. I get that we had a big ask, and I'm totally happy to pare that back. And I think we just identified, and maybe one of us can send a follow-up to Andrew and Jeannie, like we just identified some kind of must-haves for us. I heard some form of a survey so that we can determine trend line and improvements for the next, future boards and future grant applications, which I also think is really reasonable for a grant request. And then protocol for support services and letters of support from those support services, and the safety plan, and which is, I know, parallel. So I think that unless Twin Pines gets back to us with a really clear vision of how they can work with us and with some of their tenants and the other committee members, I just don't feel like they're fulfilling our request.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I agree, Ashley, which is why I was like, I think if we don't have this approved by the next meeting, like, I think this needs to be approved by the next meeting, like ready to go. And that's kind of, yeah, but I'm working on it. So I'm hopeful that we will be able to get there. I think I'm a little unsure of how to move forward though, because I think I'm hearing kind of conflicting ideas. So like, I hear the safety plan with description of roles from the 5 social service agencies, which they are already working on. And then I'm also hearing, right, that we need to understand the trend line, the quality of life for the public good. And I feel like that doesn't happen with just a safety plan. That kind of happens with tenant and town collaboration. And so,
But without micromanaging how they accomplish these goals, right?
yes, and I think, and Mary, you had mentioned this via email, that the select board liaisons should be non-voting, and I agree. So I think maybe changing it to one select board liaison, making it a non-public meeting, having the select board liaison be non-voting, using, and then, yeah, I think still having these two separate things though, where we have a safety plan, which I know we'll get a draft of, I think, at our next meeting. And then, but maybe still moving forward with a task force that includes tenants. How do people feel about that? That is kind of like where I'm thinking of like trying to combine all this feedback.
That sounds good. The only thing that I had a question about, and maybe you already know this, is how do they select the tenants?
Select board would do that.
Okay.
So we would have, in my, again, ideal world, tenants, we would ask tenants to apply, and then we could interview them similar to how we did last night, and then do executive session for a decision.
Yeah, I think that's one place for me that I hear Tim's point about not trying to overstep and micromanage. Like, I think it's fine to put that out there, but I would be open to an alternative way of forming the task force if they wanted to drive that process.
The flip side to that Ashley, you touched on well, is just this sense of, genuine work is happening and we're getting somewhere. Your comments were kind of stressful, legitimately so. I mean, I think when we added that kind of requirement, if you will, I was saying the calendar goes by fast and somebody's got to get working on this, and I assume it's happening somewhere. But
Well, it
I
has
just,
been on the
and
town's part.
I'm just worried we're gonna get, like, how many meetings do we have between now and June, and arguably June? 3 meetings?
Which is why I think that this next meeting, I'm hopeful that I can continue to work with Andrew and his staff to have a happy middle ground for the next
Thank you for
meeting.
doing that
Yeah.
work too.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we hope for next meeting that we'll see a document ahead of time that speaks to the safety plan element and a potential proposal for a longer term plan for an ongoing task force.
And we should alert Andrew that this meeting has been recorded and he can glean what he needs to from the select board comments.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to be in touch with him. Okay, yeah, final thoughts?
I had a question and I forgot it.
Okay.
I have one final thought, and I can also circle back with you, Miranda, on this later, but I think the distinction between like the safety plan and the social service organizations, to me, I saw them as two separate things. Like, I'm sure that in their safety plan, it will like name certain social service organizations for what I would consider to be like probably like emergent or emergency type situations. But maybe, yeah, I don't know what it looks like. Whereas I was thinking of like what Ida was kind of talking about with the, I guess like a longer term partnership between Twin Pines and the social service organizations, not so much as just specifically in like an emergency or in a, I would imagine that their safety plan isn't so broad that it would include like, you met with a tenant and they seemed like agitated and depressed, or like I'm sure that it's for more emergent issues, whereas I'm curious about like the deeper like collaboration and partnership on a more like day-to-day, month-to-month basis. To just know that those social service organizations are in partnership with Twin Pines and in what ways that plays out.
Oh, I remember my question, sorry,
Yeah,
Ida.
yeah.
Ida, wondering, if you have any if you have any formulated thoughts on or if you could go into more detail about what you mean about how the committee kind of comes to be. If we aren't fielding applications
like how the tenants are selected?
Mhm.
I don't know, I mean, again, I think at this point, I really want to see something from Twin Pines. I don't want to keep inventing, ideas.
Yeah.
I sort of want to see what they are going to bring to us.
Okay,
I appreciate
fair.
they're working closely with them, but I think that's what we're missing in a big way.
It's almost like a random chance could be our friend in the sense that if you're worried about a group packed with Twin Pines admirers, that's one concern. If you're worried about a tenant group that's filled with people angry and ready to go on the warpath, it's another concern. Maybe if you had the entire tenancy and picked from a hat, that might show a more balanced set
Again,
of inputs.
I'm really thinking like, is it really our role to define all these elements? I think we gotta put it in their court, and I know with collaboration from us, obviously, but yeah, I think at this point, I think
We also have a public comment.
Oh, okay. We'll take one public comment.
Go ahead, Murray.
I just have to throw in my 2 cents, I guess. It seems that a lot of this has started because of what's happening at the current buildings in Pines. And maybe they seem difficult to communicate with their tenants, with the public, with meetings, and some way they have to be accountable. I think that's the bottom line. And personally, looking at it, I think if they had somebody on site daily, they would get to know the people there living there, know their habits, see what they're doing, have more control over the situation would be the way to go. I don't think it's the town's job either to be putting these certain requirements on them, because people should not have to be living like this. And if you are only listening to tenants, some tenants are afraid to speak up because there is retaliation, or they are afraid of losing their housing, or being harassed or whatever. So some people are afraid to speak up. And sometimes I have felt that that's what I have had to do, is speak up for people who are afraid to speak up. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Marie.
you.
Thank you, Marie.
Appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Okay, I'm gonna move us on to our next agenda item. And thank you all for rich discussion, as always. So this next one, Eric, if I may just say a few things to go forward with it. Mary, do you mind if I introduce it first?
Well, I was just going to
Okay.
let people know that I was going to recuse myself from this. I think I've done a lot of thinking about this, and the process was difficult, confusing. When we budgeted for this, because it was a select board budget, there was kind of a thought behind it that we were in charge of it. And that's when I started with Tim volunteering to put together the RFP. And I had asked John for templates. He gave me a template from Lori. He gave me a template from Parks and Rec and from Tree Board. And he also told me to check in with Kathleen Ramsey at VLCT, and she provided some, and that's what I underwent with Tim, and Tim and I met also. And then in the process, interestingly enough, I met up with a friend of mine who has been on this school board in Lebanon. And in talking with her about the process, it just, I don't know why, but it just hit me while she talked that we were mistakenly entering on a process that really should have been in John's office, because it dealt with the organizational chain of command. And so that's when I contacted VLCT Legal, told them the situation, and this was Kyle Romanoff, and he responded, "You're absolutely right, this is a tricky situation, but it really should be in your town manager's office that this RFP is generated from." So that's why I am recusing myself even from the discussion. So I'm just gonna go in the other room, and I'll come, if somebody will tell me, I'll come back in when we're on to the next.
Would you be willing to listen to a thought around that?
No, not right now. I think you
Oh,
need,
yeah.
you guys need to go forward.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
All right.
Appreciate you explaining that.
Yeah.
May I share some thoughts now?
I'm gonna start by just
Okay.
introducing it, thanks. Okay, so, in terms of what Mary commented on, we, took the advice from VSLT and conferred with John, and, it is, all of our understanding that it's John's responsibility to manage an RFP and the contracting associated with that, and John has agreed that he's willing to accept a proposed RFP from the select board, and then he will give it its final approval. So any further?
No, I mean, yes, it's somewhat unusual in that it's originated with the board, but that makes sense because the board was discussing the budget when the notion came up in the first place. And I don't think it was the select board budget. I think it was the HR or town manager budget that was being discussed at the time. So that's kind of context. And, I certainly am not one to really want to fight turf battles, my lane, your lane. If you all have a great idea about bringing better efficiency to the role and function of the town manager's office to include HR and the executive assistant functions, I'm all for it. So let me be supportive to you all in this process.
Appreciate that. Thank you, John. Okay, so I think it's pretty straightforward, actually, what we have to do tonight. There's a reformatted version of the RFP. We're grateful to Mary for kicking off this process and all the work she put into it. Other board members have taken it further to be a little more specific and defined in terms of what exactly we're looking for this RFP. So the discussion tonight, really, it's just if anyone has further input on the draft that was shared in the packet, would love to hear that. And then we need to, if we're moving forward from there, designate a town official as a point of contact, and then designate a select board member to the engagement team, or a committee if we choose to do so. Okay, so yeah, that's what we're here to do tonight, and hopefully we can go pretty quickly because we've discussed this before.
And let me say, I do appreciate Tim and Ida and Eric talking with me about some concerns I had about the earlier draft, and for taking that into consideration. I do appreciate that a great deal.
Great, yeah, I think it's been a collaborative process. Okay, Tim, did you want to?
I just wanted to kind of just touch base on the concept that the spirit of this has never been, in my mind, any kind of like issue or accusatory or, hey, John, you're not doing your job, those kinds of things. It's much more for me in the spirit of working together on the organization and what we can do to really optimize it. It never crossed my mind when we started this journey, any kind of like punitive, like, oh, we have problems and here's how we're going to fix it. It was much more like, I've actually participated or been pretty involved in budget cycles for this town, several cycles. And when I came into it sitting in this seat, I'm really struck by the fact that, we need good data, good information to make big decisions around what we're doing as a town, our staffing and so on. And John, the only reflection I had on that is, I would completely concur that the scale and needs of this town justify a full HR position. There's no question. But it's sort of like, identifying the scope of that and the need sets and kind of getting just this good overlay. And I appreciate Eric's work on the RFP because I didn't want kind of a feasibility study that we couldn't do anything with. I wanted some tangible facts and information so that when we get into the next budget cycle, we can say, aha, we clearly as a town have these needs and concerns, or we can do a much better job of understanding that. So I appreciate all the work, and I think it's a good way to go forward. The only other thought I had was timing, because we obviously have a new town manager coming in July-ish, and I think it does, yes, this should probably run, concurrent stream, but I'm sort of thinking a little bit like, given our work, is our timing good here? Should we really be thinking like, let's focus on getting a new town manager in place and then having that dialogue with them, and then being able to kind of like work the two things. We still have another 3-4 months after that before budget season. So I think it would be intriguing to consider just a little bit of a delay, but don't hate me for that.
Okay, we have one question about timing. We can discuss that, or if other people want to bring up any other input on the document itself at this point. Ashley?
Yeah, and I'm like rerunning through it to make sure I didn't miss it anywhere. But one of the things that we talked about was like staff feedback and yeah,
Interviews?
go ahead.
Oh, like you're thinking like interviews with staff?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have that.
It's on.
Let's see. Yeah, 4.2, so this is page 63 of the packet. Stakeholder interviews and engagement.
Okay.
Can I add one more point to that? The other thing that I've just been thinking about is with our recruiter now being selected, having exhibited pretty good skill sets around understanding municipal government and select board, town manager dynamics, and a whole range of kind of those things that we're all faced with and we need to work on. It just seems like I don't know, it seems like it's sort of a funny situation because we've sort of enlisted this, person to find us a new town manager, but then it seems like on the heels of that, this fits, right? As work that very likely we want to have done, but it would be the sequencing of that. But.
Yeah. Do you have thoughts about the timing piece?
Yeah, let's see if they're coherent. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Tim, and it's sort of an interesting situation. So there's really, there's three parts, right? There's the collection of information that establishes the baseline, current conditions, so to speak. And then there's a gap analysis and benchmarking. And then there's recommendations and implementation plan and things that fall out of, that are identified through the gap analysis. So the question would be, does it make sense to go through the current conditions exercise with someone who's leading the role, or just pull that from scope? And it's there's an opportunity to interview the submitters in the process, and they might have some insight into that as well. One possibility is just that piece is left out. If you postpone and you get a new town manager in, then the question is, do you have sufficient data, so to speak, to collect current conditions on someone that's been in the job for a month or 2 months or whatever? And this is a process that has been laid out for, so it's a relatively small contract. My guess is it's 3 or 4 weeks of work at most, given a probable consulting fee rate. And it's spread out over several months, July, August, September, basically, with the idea of the deliverable that comes in advance of budget season or right at the beginning of budget season. So there's a little room to shift, but I'm not sure that it buys us that much. What it gets us, though, is maybe a lot of that current condition stuff is less about the person or the individual,
Right.
and more about the role, the responsibilities, the command structure, and so on and so forth. So I think if we look down through the list of dimensions that are articulated, I think there's still a lot to be captured. But I am receptive to the idea of if interviewing proposers or submitters, of sort of revisiting that part of it, and seeing whether this still makes sense.
So where it fits, if you will.
Right, what do they have thoughts on? They're the people that do this work. We're the people that are hoping to get expertise, right? That's our role. So those are my quasi-coherent thoughts on that.
Can I just chime in to say I agree with Eric in the sense that what matters is positions here, not individuals that might fill them or in the future might fill them.
Right. Okay, great.
So can we circle back to Ashley's question and confirm that?
I'm happy.
You're happy? Okay.
I like that a lot.
Okay,
Yeah.
great to hear.
Right.
Okay, yes.
Oh, yeah. Wait, so what did you need to hear from us again tonight?
Okay, so
Feedback.
just any feedback on the document itself, and then this is under discussion. There's 1, 2, 3 on the first page of the memo on page 59 of the packet, and then.
Oh my God, I skipped over that completely. Sorry.
Yeah. So number 1 is just input on the RFP, and then we need to designate a town official, and then number 3 has 2 options, either 1 select board member or a subcommittee, which would be open meeting law. I guess my preference would be 1 select board member for simplicity's sake. But that's my thought, yeah.
I think, well, there was a question earlier that was maybe directed to John about more than 1 select board member. And I don't know if there's any nuance here in terms of whether that's sort of on the Twin Pines related task force that's sort of collecting information, or whether it's in a role like this where maybe there's some decisions being made. I think we put up a number of decision points in here that board members or the quote unquote town's engagement team would be making. Whether you have any guidance for us on that, whether I wrote this in a conservative way, and assuming that if we had more than 1 member, we would want to follow open meeting law. And so I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I think we had that discussion a little bit earlier tonight. Again, I don't see a problem as long as there's not a quorum of the select board involved.
Okay. I know VLCT kind of thinks of it as a quote unquote gray area.
Oh,
When you go
And
to
it's possible that
that's
I am.
interesting to me. I didn't know that.
It's possible that I'm misinterpreting what I've read.
Okay.
Only a gray area in that the law doesn't explicitly say that you can do this. And so basically it says you have a body, and then if you have a committee or subcommittee of that, it follows open meeting law. And it doesn't say anything like if you just delegate some tasks and you call it a working group. In fact, the language they use a lot is working groups. And so we should just be mindful of that. I think my sense is that the simplest thing to do is to designate and delegate to one select board member. But I don't have all of the legal advice.
I can certainly ask that specific question and get you back.
Sure. As far as number 2 goes, the town official is the point of contact for questions. As my understanding, it's a pretty formal process where submitters get to submit questions, and then there's a reply deadline, and that anyone that received the RFP gets a response, or they have to be posted publicly.
Right. If you're going to respond to one, you have to respond to all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering if it makes sense for us to designate a town staff person in that role rather than try to have the board navigate that in a 2-week period or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to do it. It makes sense. I'd probably be most knowledgeable about the RFP and how it came and what the thinking is behind it.
If the board is comfortable with that, that would be my suggestion. I just left it as town official to be open to other ideas.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with Eric. I think one select board member would be best. John, if you're willing to field those questions.
Sure.
I also would agree with that, with John being the town official. I'm also wondering if there's anyone who's on the select board who is interested in that one, or who is interested in serving on this team.
Question?
I guess my question would be, what do we envision the frequency and intensity of that team's meetings to look like?
It's one of those, it's a dilemma because you don't really know that until the RFP gets responded to and they give you kind of the structure and the timeline, right?
Do we have to?
Yeah, do we have to decide?
Maybe you don't have to designate one to be determined based on what you see and what the actual winning
I
proposal
think
is.
that would be a good thing to wait on, actually.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
I think the only caveat there is the catch-22 of that the engagement team is the ones that are vetting the proposals.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I thought, okay.
Yeah, so
I thought
you've got a way around
I
that.
thought they were going to be a resource once there was a selection, so I missed
Yeah,
that.
there's a couple of roles that
Got it.
engagement team plays, so
Yeah.
we don't have to make the decision tonight necessarily.
Unless you want to adopt it tonight.
Well,
Well,
we can approve the
We can
proposal.
approve the
Okay.
RFP and
Yeah.
potentially start disseminating
Yes,
it.
okay.
The release date is specific as the 17th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm willing to consider it, but I
Okay.
think if we don't have to decide tonight, that can give me a little time to think about it and, see if it's something I can fit into my schedule.
It's also something we could change. If you signed up and went through the process of vetting the proposals and then decided in the interviews that it looked like it was going to be too much work, we have an opportunity to sort of shift that.
Okay.
I think, anyway.
Okay, yeah.
One other question I had was, should we specify, instead of just saying a town, what did you say, official? Should we just specify John?
Yeah.
He's a town official.
Yeah, there's a
But-
section in the RFP to identify the point of contact.
Okay.
And so that was
we all are.
number 2 in
filling
this
in the
list of
blank tonight,
objectives just says that we're going to take the document and edit it and put John's name in there.
Okay.
So I
Just
will
in case
send you-
John decided he wanted to give it to, somebody else.
Oh,
Oh, well, that's his authority.
Hereafter, you're John Doe.
John Haverstock or his delegate,
Okay,
but I'm not planning to delegate it.
okay.
Okay.
I'm willing to make a motion.
Okay, great. I'll take a motion.
I move that the select board approve the organizational assessment and alignment consulting services RFP with John Haversack as the town official point of contact for questions from proposers, and direct the town manager to issue the RFP on April 17th, 2026 and solicit proposals.
Second.
Second from Tim. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? or abstain, and we know Mary is recused.
Oh, yes, that's right.
We're done.
Yeah, and
We're done with that,
thank you
yeah.
to everyone who worked on that.
Yes, yes.
It's really an impressive document, thank you all.
Learning process. Okay, wow, I'm relieved. Okay. All right, our next item is to consider the adoption of our amended code of conduct. So thank you, Dawn, or whoever you worked with, to incorporate the minor changes. Oh wait, we'll wait for Mary. Okay.
Interesting discussion with Peter.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure. Okay.
You weren't lonely.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so now we are on our final action item, which is the adoption of the amended code of conduct. So we had discussed this last time. We made a couple minor changes. We added one, number 10, under the first section of responsibilities and expectations. And we removed something under the select board chair and additional responsibilities. Any other comments that people have
Don't
about?
forget about the refillable pen.
And we changed the gift to something more practical. Ashley.
Thanks. My only thought is that with the addition of item 10, do we still need item 9? Because they're kind of redundant. Like, remaining cordial and cooperative with fellow members and town employees and Hartford residents. And then in section 10, it says, select board members shall act impartially and not unduly favor or prejudice any person. And oh yeah, I guess maybe not. Now that I say it out loud, I disagree.
And I think
Yeah,
nine's
with
really
myself.
important.
Yeah.
I think it's
I
nice to have
disagree
it.
with myself, and I'm
Even
not
if there's
happy.
overlap, it's nice to have them stated a couple different ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just think that if we could set a goal for next time to try and integrate a mediation component, because historically, we have had people who have been great on the select board, but have left for situations that I think probably could have been resolved in a sort of a mediation platform of some sort. I'm not even sure what that would look like, but the idea would be that if there was some type of conflict going on, which is inevitable
Between
for
select board
organizations. Yeah, say between two people, or, there's different reasons why that happens. I think it'd be very valuable to have a kind of a channel that says, hey, if you have concern, something happens or you're upset or whatever, that there's some type of, good process that we have in place.
I'd say the good news is that we do have an employee assistance program that can provide those kinds of services, not just to an individual, but to multiple individuals working out conflict, and that applies to select board members.
Where does that sit? Does it sit with VLCT or?
VLCT actually provides it as a member benefit, but we have direct contact to EAP.
I just think we need to nurture and enhance that concept that, because again, we've lost some good people along the way that I think, it would have been neat to have that process to say, hey, let's work this out and stick with us and keep doing the work,
Thanks. Yes, Mary.
And I actually even talked to, this was a while ago, months ago, was talking to Mike Hoyt about this, because there have been people in the town staffing who didn't feel comfortable going to HR, didn't feel comfortable, because we talked at one time, I can't remember how many years ago, about then if they didn't feel comfortable going to HR, would they go to the town manager? If they didn't feel comfortable with either of those, then where did they go? And it was floating around for a while, maybe a select board member, and we thought, nah. But actually, when I talked with Mike about this, he said, it sounds like it's a perfect place for an ombudsman, comes in from the outside and is, totally neutral. And I, surprisingly, I looked up online, and there's even international ombudsman. So, I think there needs to be something in place, because I think sometimes what we have in-house, and maybe VLC is the better of all possible worlds, but sometimes it just doesn't fit with everybody.
Yeah, and so two layers there, honestly, right? Your layer, which is sort of like the organization at large, I think it should be in place there as well. And candidly, this should, when I was on the school board, I was like, oh my God, why don't we have this,
Yeah.
So there's that camp, but I'm kind of specifically focused on the select board, like our work, and when things come up here, that we would have that same instrument.
Yeah, I think this perhaps pertains to our last agenda item and the work that's going to be done through the organizational assessment and efficiency review. And I really encourage folks if we're able to get a consultant to do that work and they interview select board members to bring these thoughts into that space, because I think that could be one venue where we could really have, an outside expert kind of coalesce some of these ideas and make recommendations as part of that process.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make one more comment about the code of conduct. And this is not a suggested change, but just acknowledging the section around the chair responsibilities as, the primary interface and providing information to the public on behalf of the town and working with the town manager to do so. I just wanted to make a note, like on a personal level, as like leadership style. I'm a highly collaborative person, and I really see myself as like, one person in the board. And while I know that there are responsibilities that come along with this, I just want to say that I'm very used to working in teams and leveraging, strengths of other folks to balance out, areas that maybe I don't have capacity or weaknesses. So just, for public awareness, I definitely will be continue to work closely with Eric, the vice chair, to kind of work through decision processes and communicate with the public, and as well as all the other board members. I'm in touch with everyone regularly, and I definitely lean on folks to help make sure that we're being responsive to concerns that community members bring to us, and that we're really sharing the responsibility of being transparent and in touch with the public. So you may not always hear from me, and it may be other board members that step in and communicate and talk with you either in public or over email, and that's just part of the process, and why I feel like I'm able to do this, because I have a really strong team that I'm working alongside. So just wanted to make that comment. Any other comments related to the code of conduct?
Good document, don't use.
Good, okay. I think we're ready for a motion.
Ida?
Yes.
I move that we adopt the amended code of conduct, select board amended code of conduct.
I'll second the motion.
A second from Mary, thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, excellent.
And there will be a signature document over here for everybody.
Okay. All right, we are moving on to commission reports. Ashley, do you have any?
Sure. The Hartford Committee on Homelessness and Housing met last week, 1 week ago almost. And they were, we talked through some of the details for the Big Little Build pilot that's in the pipeline and finalizing that, some of that up. And then some kind of, there was a lot of energy and excitement in the committee. It was great. It was a great meeting. Members are going to the VCDA conference tomorrow, at least 2 of us are. And they also committed to doing a build day with Habitat for Humanity, which of course I personally was very excited about. And it was a great meeting, and I look forward to the next one.
Okay, great, thank you. Kim, any
Nothing for
commissioner
me.
reports?
Nothing.
Yes, just a quick, H. Corey is doing the planning for Juneteenth, so stay tuned on that. Very exciting. It's gonna be on June 20th because that's a Saturday. And, we're also, as a committee, have been looking at the now online ordinances, and are seeing, where we might be able to give some feedback to the town on updating them to be more inclusive.
Excellent, great, glad that process can start. Eric?
Thank you. In addition to their many other projects, the Conservation Commission is seeking nominations for its Conservator of the Year award. The commission wants to celebrate the work of individuals who have demonstrated environmental sustainability, wildlife habitat, and/or watershed protection, conservation, education, and awareness or similar work aligned with the commission's mission. Hartford residents are preferred, but nominations of Upper Valley residents are welcome. Nominations are due by, I don't have that, no. I have a question mark there in my notes. So check the website. The nomination form and more information can be found on the commission's homepage, and awards will be announced during the HCC block party. That's going to be their big debut. And I think this is an interesting idea that maybe could be shared across commissions and committees. It could be an energy whatever of the year or whatever, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah, it's going to be like the Oscars.
exactly.
Yeah.
So fun.
Outdoor Oscars.
Making you fun. Mary?
No report for me.
Okay, and Mike?
I have nothing to report. I've been striking out with my committee meetings, but tree board this week.
Okay.
It's gonna be awesome.
All right, great. Okay, and I have no commission reports either. All right, we're on to the consent agenda. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and
Okay,
move it.
thank you.
I move that the select board approve payroll ending April 11th, 2026, approve AP manifest of April 10th, 2026, and April 16th, 2026, approve meeting minutes of March 31st, 2026, and April 6th, 2026. Future meetings are already approved of April 28th, 2026, May 12th, 2026, and May 26th, 2026.
Thank you.
Second.
Second from Tim. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? Great, thank you all. Next up is our executive session for the evening.
Ida?
Yes.
In order to allow for a discussion of proprietary information, sensitive project hypotheticals, preliminary requests and negotiating positions, and private building information, I move to find that premature general public knowledge would clearly place this body and/or persons involved at a substantial disadvantage pursuant to 1 VSA Section 313A1, and move to discuss potential contractual matters pursuant to 1 VSA Section 313 subsections A1A.
Second the motion.
And second from Tim. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? All right.
And can we take a 5-minute break
Yes.
at the same
Yes,
time?
I did not think about a break earlier. Yes, let's take a. Enough of us here. Oh yeah, would you mind? Yeah, actually,
Ida?
yes?
I move that we end executive session at 9:23 PM.
Second.
Second from Miranda, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? We are out of executive session, no action or decisions were made.
I move that we adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ashley, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? All right, excellent, thank
Good
you
night,
all.
and God bless.
Signatures are appreciated from those who have.